All right, I guess I'll get started here. Just out for a walk and wanted to share some thoughts on Palantir's earnings tomorrow after the bell. I'm glad they're doing it after the bell again. Started that last quarter. Um, and yeah, it's a good departure from what I'm sure was a bit aggravating for Alex Karp getting up so early. And yeah, so I think Q1 earnings tomorrow, I think it's a pretty big moment for the company with respect to the continued path towards profitability. So as I said, I have a few thoughts to share, thinking about what they will be reporting tomorrow. So first of which, I think, bottom line is going to be top of mind um, on the earnings print. So I was taking a look at the FactSet compiled consensus for the 18 analysts that cover Palantir, and we have a non-GAAP EPS expectation of 4 cents and a GAAP EPS loss of 1 cent per share. And personally, I think if you sort of read the tea leaves, Palantir announced their full year profitability target last quarter, and I think trending towards that full year profitability, as well as the announcement of being eligible for inclusion to the S&P 500, even with respect to their class share structure. I think they're going to be pushing very hard for profitability here on out to be, eligible for that with 4 quarters of consecutive profitability. They recognized a GAAP profit last quarter, not operationally, but I think, whether it's operationally this time or if it's another one-time benefit that they're able to recognize, I do think there's a good chance they will be at least break even, if not profitable. For that reason, the press release talking about their eligibility, making a big deal out of it, I don't think they would have done that if it was not something that they were planning on pushing forward. So that being said, I do think, personally speaking, that they will beat on the bottom line, but potentially more interesting is the expectations around their revenue. So I tweeted this, not sure how to add it to this discussion, but their sales for the March 2023 quarter, the consensus is about 506 million, and their guidance, if you recall, on February 14th was 503 to 507 million, that range. So the consensus is within the range, but I've gone back and looked, and they tend to beat their guidance by about 2% on average. So either way you slice it, there's a good likelihood that they will be beating on the top line as well. So a double beat is what I'm expecting. I'm not expecting anything too far out of the ordinary. But I guess with respect to the stock, of course, it doesn't necessarily matter what happens one way or the other as long-term investors. But thinking about the stock where it stands currently, expectations on growth, the price action, and so on, I do think we've had, a significant reduction in expectations across the board, and that does set the stock up for a potential rebound. And of course, Palantir's been driven, a lot by macro, given its long duration as a name. But, some of the research I was doing and the report I published talking about how its duration as an investment is essentially shortening as they pull forward GAAP profitability. And so all that to say, I think there is a scenario where Palantir beats expectations, and that sort of catalyzes the stock going forward. So I'm fairly bullish on this report. I'm considering, a very, very small gamble on the earnings release before that comes through tomorrow evening. So I'm considering very small call position. But yeah, all that to say, in terms of speculation, I anticipate this to be another good release. Something worth noting being how on the last release, surprise profitability, the stock shot up, I don't know, 30 something percent, and came all the way back down. So I think what would be more interesting this time is a sustained rally and getting, as I tweeted an hour or so ago, potentially back to double digits. And so I think right now where it stands, Palantir is, in my opinion, based on the work I've done, undervalued. And I would like to see some of that gap close, right? And earnings is where Palantir tends to move the most. Even on some of their contract announcements, the stock doesn't really move too much, tends to actually be a sell the news event. I don't think it's always going to be the case, but just, something worth noting. So I think tomorrow, in the long-term landscape, not too important, but in the short term, their ability to control costs, as we've been watching, and execute and hopefully minimize the reduction in growth that we've been seeing in terms of year-over-year declines. I think, tomorrow will give us a good indication into the business's operations and how well they've been executing. New contracts, new clients, always very good to look into, and all of the numbers that they publish. But again, I just wanted to sort of go on here quickly and discuss. I think there is, a well-reasoned argument to be made that they will be beating both the top and bottom line tomorrow. And so I wanted to say I'm bullish, get on my first space here, test out the platform, and good luck to all of the Palantir investors tomorrow. And I'll certainly be digging into the report and sharing what I find. So thank you everyone for joining. See you tomorrow. Take care.